All right. Well, listen, I'm really glad you guys decided to stop by. Welcome to Riverside Chats. My name is River, and today is episode 4, and it's very special. It's very exciting. We have Maria with us. Say hello to the people, Maria.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm super happy to be here today.
Oh, yes. And everyone also, if you guys, hopefully, you guys can see the screen and you can hear both of us. If, let me see in your upper right hand corner of the screen, you see the questions box. Drop me a question in there. Just say hi, just to make sure that it's working on your end too. Let me know, and we will get on the road very, very soon with our special guest, Maria Chaudhry. Oh, yes. Hello, everyone. They're sending greetings.
Good.
Mm. All right. So, as we get started here, whether you are listening live or if you're listening to this after the fact on podcast players or on the YouTube channel, just a few things about the. Oh yes, they're excited. We're getting some comments. Hello, Beth.
It's
Hello, Justin. There's a. Don't worry, Maria. You just need to be calm. Nobody's here. It's just us. We're just talking.
just us, right?
Nothing.
So,
Yes. What's
so
up?
our members that know me know that I get super, super, super nervous, but I'm happy. I'm happy that everyone's here. I'll try to
Uh,
not be nervous.
you know, this is definitely like, if you guys haven't heard this before, what this is just a podcast where I talk to black box stocks moderators, and the idea is we don't necessarily talk. Well, we're going to talk trading today for sure, but we're not going to talk trading setups necessarily. We're not going to, because they talk about those things a lot. This podcast is for you guys to get to know these moderators better. So we'll talk trading, of course, but we're going to talk about Maria's life before trading, outside of trading, how she got into it. We're going to talk blackmouth curs, probably. That's a type of dog. We've got a lot of things that we're going to hopefully. The idea is you guys will have a better idea of Maria as a person and her worldview, and we'll get into all kinds of things, including trading. But before we get started, definitely want to say, if you can see the screen, I do work at Black Box Stocks. Greatest job in the world, the greatest one I've ever had, anyway. But this particular podcast is definitely an independent, fully independent podcast. This is my thing. This is me. I created it. I hosted it. I'm a showrunner. Um, so all the views you hear expressed only represent me and my guest. We're just not speaking for anyone else here today except uh, she and me. And also, this podcast sometimes features explicit language. So be aware of that. Sometimes Maria curses, right?
Yeah, I'm super, super like I keep it toned down during the day, during market hours, but not during market hours. I do tend to not have to not be able to control that.
That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear. See, this is going to be Maria Unchained. You know what I mean? This is going to be the Maria that you guys know and love as a amazing full-time trader and moderator. We're gonna get into some levels, and soon I will do my thing, and she will forget that everyone is here, and we will talk about stuff. But that is a very serious disclaimer. I want to make clear to you guys that there is explicit language that comes through from time to time. And just to repeat, this is a fully independent podcast, and the views are only mine and the guest. So, what's going on today? How's your Saturday? What are you doing? What's new?
So far, so good. I woke up early. I went and worked out. We had a rave day at my gym, and that was fun. And then I do cryotherapy every day, some red light therapy as well. Did that, and that's about it.
Yeah, I've seen the red light therapy. I've always kind of wondered. I've never been sold
It
on it.
actually, it actually makes a huge difference. You do have to do it consecutively. I'd say probably do about 5 sessions back to back, and you will notice a difference.
Hmm. Okay. So you're a gym person for sure. I'm definitely into fitness. As I myself am getting older, it's even more important for me to do those things. But I don't know. Red light therapy is definitely a thing in this area. I've seen it. I just haven't tried it out.
It's great. It's you should definitely give it a try. It actually works at the molecular, at the cellular level. So it makes huge differences, especially with recovery and inflammation and stuff like that. It works really well.
That makes me kind of nervous though. I hear cellular level.
It won't hurt you, I promise.
I do need recovery. I'm in my mid 40s presently, and I still weight train. I still rock climb, and
That is
recovery
awesome.
recovery just takes so long at this point. We used to go on rock climbing trips, and it would take a day or two, and sometimes I'm not going to say how long because you're a very young person. Um,
I'm not that much younger than you, River.
well, we know you're 23, and
Yep, I'll take it.
I'm 27, and I'm also full of it, but that's okay. So here's kind of what I'm thinking, Mariam. Kang was on last episode, and he told me after a few moments, he felt like, he was just down in my riverside cabin, and we were just sitting in front of a big fire, and he just kind of forgot. So I'm glad you came down here to my North Carolina cabin.
Yep.
Um, and I've got this idea. So I want to hear one all about voice. I want to know like some behind the scenes stuff. What is it like to be on voice daily? We need like behind the scenes. I'm just curious about some things about that. Number two, I want you to teach me a little bit how to trade the open. I've been thinking about that momentum of the open. I understand the amazing possibilities there. And I know that you trade the open, the right, very open. I want to talk women in trading, but I kind of have that.
Absolutely.
I also want to kind of go back, and I like to begin kind of in a backwards thing. Just of course, how did you get into trading? But like, what was life before trading? How did you figure out trading is something that I even want to try in the beginning? How did that come about?
So I always had an interest in the markets. I was always curious about stocks and just how the markets kind of work. So early on, and I'm talking like junior high, high school, at that age, I was fascinated just by the workings of the market itself. Wall Street in general was just like it was the coolest thing in the world to me. So I always kind of had that interest. I'll be very honest. I never once in a million years thought that I'd be where I am today. And I'm like, I truly feel blessed and I'm so happy with where I am now, but I never ever thought that I would be a trader.
Hmm.
I always knew I would invest and stuff like that, but I never knew that I would actually be able to make a career out of this. I was pre-med for 4.5 years, no, 3.5 years, sorry. And
Oh,
then I switched to finance after that. So it took me about 6.5 years to finish my undergrad. And throughout my undergrad, I worked at JP Morgan. I had started what I'll say just long-term swing trading, not necessarily investing, but long-term swing trading, just buying shares of like Apple and stuff like that. And I'd make a little bit of money and, get rid of it and then buy it back. So I started trading early on. So early 20s, I started trading. Um, and I worked at Chase throughout my entire under and even after.
hmm.
I apologize. My mic keeps muting on and off for some reason. Don't know
Okay.
why,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's okay. I
no
mean,
worries.
it definitely seems to cut out for a minute, and but it also seems to just come right back.
Yeah,
So
because I'm clicking the button. So I'm
okay.
clicking the button to unmute it real fast. So I apologize if there's little breaks there.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah,
So
I
pre-med, I was kind
yeah,
of
pretty much.
pre-med too. I was interested in med school and pathology specifically, but that's interesting. A pre-med shift to finance. That's
I
atypical. I have
know.
a lot of science friends. I've got a whole bunch actually of science friends and physician friends. Pre-med and finance. That's an interesting shift for sure.
It was. And don't get me wrong, like I'm still fascinated by the medical world, but I
Mhm.
think I realized and understood that I liked it as a hobby. Like I like to read about it. I like learning about different things. Obviously, I love fitness. So exercise science in general, physiology, kinesiology, that kind of stuff
Yeah.
was just fascinating. But as a hobby, I think I realized at a certain, at one point I did realize I realized that I didn't want to make a career out of that.
Hmm.
And I switched over to finance. Again, I was working at JP Morgan. I was a national loan officer writing mortgages nationwide, and that was early 2000s. So this was when interest rates, initially crashed um, to where, they were quote unquote historic lows. And 2008, probably about April, May, I realized our leads weren't coming in that great. And I had kind of started trading a little bit more throughout that time period as well. But when I realized the leads weren't coming in that great, I was like, fuck, I need to get out before there's 400 other loan offers in this specific market looking for the same jobs that I'm looking for.
Okay.
So I saw a job opening for a stockbroker trainee at Charles Schwab. And
Mm,
I'll be honest, I kind of applied for it just as a joke. They called me for an interview, and in the very first step for Schwab, it's a little bit of a process. They make you take a test, and that test
mm.
actually determines how likely you are to pass the Series 7 and 63.
Yeah,
So if you
sure.
don't pass that test, you don't get another interview. You have to pass that test. So I took the test, didn't think I was going to pass it. I passed it, and
Mm,
that's kind of how I got more into the trading world. Um, Again, never thought I'd be there, but I started at Schwab. I moved to Scottrade. I went to TD Ameritrade Institutional, and
mm,
then by that point, I realized I'm making more money off my trading by myself than I am in my 9 to 5. So I
mm.
decided to leave there and started trading on my own.
So you were at JP Morgan in 2008? Is that what you said?
I started at JP Morgan in 2001, and I worked there through probably about May of '08. So right before the crash. So I was
Right,
studying
right.
and taking my Series 7 while the market was crashing.
Oh my. So the JP Morgan gig, like that, I think obviously I have no knowledge of that, but I know there is a lot of interest in these banking jobs, and that
Hmm.
had to be I'm assuming, let me know if I'm wrong, that had to be a pretty intense 7 years.
It was absolutely it was.
And you were a
It,
broker, right? Is that correct?
at JP Morgan. I was a national loan officer, so I
Right.
was writing mortgages nationwide
Right.
there.
Right.
But I will tell you one thing is I worked really hard during that time period. It was a sales job, so the more I worked, the more I got paid. So I worked as much as I could, sometimes 14-hour days, but it was lucrative.
Yeah.
Not only that, just having JP Morgan, especially at that age, having JP Morgan on my resume, I fully believe opened up tons of doors as far as, jobs going down the line.
Like maybe Schwab, perhaps?
Absolutely. I'm 1,000% convinced of that.
So the internal Schwab test, that's just an internal thing they do to see if you're ready for the Series 7. That had to be, I know in the university world, the idea of the test that is the gatekeeper, that either you pass this and continue, or you don't pass this and you get a new job plan. That had to be terrible.
It was nerve wracking. I literally, like, I took the test, I called my mom, and I was like, I know I failed this. I totally failed this. There's absolutely no way that I passed this thing. And there's no way to study for it. It's all logic based
Yeah.
questions. And they're so, I don't remember word for word what the questions were, but they were very obscure. And you kind of just had to, like, it was almost like every single one was, should I just select, should I just select C and move on? Or, you really, like, you're like, I really don't know if there's an answer to this.
So you passed it possibly on sheer luck, possibly just guessing correctly.
I have no idea. I honestly couldn't tell you that. And I remember asking the recruiter, like, did I pass by a little bit or by a lot? And she was like, it's just a pass fail.
Yeah,
We don't know, by how much you beat or anything like that. It's just you either passed or you didn't.
that's right. You might have barely passed, or you might have killed it.
I'd like to believe that I at least did a little bit better than barely passed, but I'd be happy with barely passed.
So, and then the Series 7. So I've heard that I've got lawyer friends, and I've got friends who have taken the Series 7, and I've heard that the Series 7 is more difficult in some states than passing the bar. So what is the Series 7 exam like?
It is very, very intensive, and at least when I took it, so they changed the format after like the year after I got my license, they changed the format, and I don't know if this statement still holds true, but when I took it, it actually was more difficult than the bar exam, and I remember in training they told us this exam was designed to make for you to fail.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're not trying to give you an easy way. Like you truly have to know your shit to pass this exam, and it was very intensive, and it covered, um, geez, every little thing from what is a stock to tell me what an iron condor is to find the break even point
Hmm. Hmm.
of this straddle butterfly whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and not only that, it's not just the seven. So the seven allows you to facilitate trades
Right. Okay.
for your broker's clients. The 63 is a state licensing, and it's a little bit easier. It's more situational. It's basically just they want to find out whether or not you're going to act ethically. So
Yeah.
blue sky laws and stuff like that are
Yeah.
what's included and not. But passing the Series 7, the
Mm.
goal was pass on the first try. And I know at Schwab, we were the first training class, and we had about 30 in my class. We were the first class in like 13 years where every single person passed the 7. And we only had 2.5 weeks to study because
Mm.
the market had literally crashed and they needed us on the phones. So we had 2.5 weeks to study. We should have had about 6 weeks, only had 2.5 weeks, and we still, every single person passed.
That and you were trading on your own during this time too, correct?
I was, absolutely.
That's some busy days. um,
But well, here's the thing: is I wasn't day trading, but when
yeah.
things were crashing, I was buying them up at the bottom.
Mm.
So everyone was freaking out, trying to get out of positions. I was trying to get into positions.
Mm. Yeah. So how long did you do the broker thing? How long were you there at Schwab?
Schwab, I was there for about a year, and then I went to Scott Trade, and I was there for several years. And then I moved out here to Texas. I was in Ohio when I was at Scott Trade. That's where I'm from. And then my family, my mom, my dad, my sister, my grandmother, they all moved to Dallas down here. And I followed them about a year afterwards. And I got a job at TD Ameritrade Institutional and stayed there for about a year and a half. So in total, about 8 years
Hmm.
as a broker.
And then you noticed your trading, you said, was kind of becoming more lucrative than the 9 to 5.
Yeah. By the
And
time I was at TD, by the time I quit, my regular income was completely replaced and then some with my own personal trading. So it was at that point, it's like, do I sit here and work 9 to 5 for something that's set, or do I really see where I can go on my own?
yeah, those are such sought after jobs too. The job you had. There's such sought
Absolutely.
after positions, and they're so I'm imagining competitive, and you still made that transition to just saying, I'm going to do my own thing, and you
Absolutely.
organized your exit, however that happened, and talk about the just the transition from a really solid job as you've described with all kinds of benefits and insurance, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Because a lot of members, have this goal of just trading part time, but it seems to me what I've noticed, a lot of Black Box Stocks members would like to try to give it a go full time one time, right? So talk a little bit about that transition and what kind of fear or whatever was going on. What was that like leaving such a hallowed and established career to literally trade on your own? What was that like?
I, I think part of it is, I think I'm more entrepreneurial, however you say that word.
Mhm.
I always wanted to be my own boss. That was part of the attraction. My end goal was never to retire as a stockbroker. My end goal was to somehow, some way, find something that was my own. So I was always that was always in the back of my mind. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that transition was super difficult. I'd spent years being a part an organization, and not just organizations. We're talking Fortune 500 companies. You got to tell people, no, I work for Chase, I work for Scottrade, I work for TD Ameritrade Institutional. Like these are well recognized.
Mhm.
names where people are like, wow, and that feels good. It does. It did at the time.
Yeah.
And it still feels good to say that.
Oh yeah,
For myself, it's an honor,
yeah,
right?
it's a
It's an
pedigree.
honor.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So breaking away from that, I think it was, I don't know if you want to call it ego or pride or what, but it was very hard for me to disassociate from being someone who was corporate America. It was more of a mental thing where it's like, no, I'm not part of an organization anymore. I don't represent a company anymore. I only represent myself. So it took me a little bit of time to be okay with that. And it was difficult. For myself, it was difficult, but I'm so happy I did it. It put me in a much better place, financially, emotionally, physically, everything else. I'm definitely in a much better place than I was.
So you were drawn to the independence and the freedom that you didn't have. I would imagine those jobs when you work for TD and you work for Schwab as a broker, that's got to be demanding. Like you probably don't have a lot of, or maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you probably don't have a lot of freedom within the confines of those jobs. Is that
You
correct?
don't. Every single thing that you do is monitored down to the trades that you place. And risk management, or whatever team within that organization equivalent of risk management. If you place a trade, if I place a trade for a client who buys Apple, and I have a limit order in on Apple that happens to fill right after that order, I'm getting a phone call. Like every little thing is monitored, and it is
Mm.
extremely demanding. Not just from the client side, because you're trying to do right by clients. You're trying to make sure that they're making appropriate decisions without making decisions for themselves, because that is part of a broker's job. You're not there to dictate what they do. You're
Mhm.
there to help facilitate that trade and to make sure they understand what they're doing. So it was mentally and emotionally draining on that end, because not everyone likes to listen, right? Not everyone fully understands what they're doing, and
Yeah.
that there's potential for them to hurt themselves financially.
I was just thinking,
And then
I,
yeah,
I was just thinking, did you have clients that you knew they were placing trades with terrible theses behind them, but you had to do it?
absolutely,
Oh
yep,
yeah, that would be tough.
absolutely,
You knew
yeah,
they were just throwing their money away, and probably
yep,
significant money sometimes. And
yep, absolutely.
and you just have to push the button because you're representing them.
Yep.
Uh, oh yeah, that's really. I bet that was terrible.
It's very hard, and I mean, you do your best though. Like you explain, like, hey, this is your risk. Are you willing to risk this? Are you sure you're okay risking this? And I used to ask multiple times, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, here are your drawbacks right now. Like, here's what can happen. Are you okay with taking that risk? And if they say yes, place a trade. You got to place a trade, because if you don't place it fast enough, you waste time, and they don't get the fill that they want. That's going to get you in trouble too.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And then when the trade goes awry, as you advised them it probably would, then do you have to also deal with them being angry at you for whatever irrational reason?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes, or sometimes you'd get a phone call. You
Hmm.
you don't have like a set amount of clients. Like for example, at Schwab, it was whoever called in. If they press the button for a broker, you get the call. So
Yeah.
sometimes, and a coworker had placed a trade for someone, and but everything is documented, extremely documented. And everything, for the most part, at least when I was there, everything was recorded. So there were multiple times people were getting phone calls pulled. They were looking at transcripts. They were looking at the notes from the broker. So it was being reviewed, because if you messed up, you're either getting, I mean, you're more than likely getting fired.
Hmm.
And if you have that following you, you're not getting a job anywhere else.
Sure. So if you got fired from TD Ameritrade, then that's the end of your financial career, probably.
If you get fired for messing up, for doing something
Yeah.
wrong, then yes.
Sure. Yeah. So, and that, of course, this is, I know the answer to this, but for people who have started trading in the past 3 to 4 years, how spoiled are we with these no commissions and these apps and stuff? Because that's a different world what you're describing from.
It
It's
is.
what are your thoughts on the evolution of, not just the retail trader, but just what about the zero commission? What about this thing we're in right now? The way that trading is so different from even, 8 or 9 years ago. What are your thoughts on that with this
I
shift?
think, I mean, I think it's both amazing and dangerous at the same time. I think it's allowing people who don't have the proper knowledge or backgrounds or understanding. It's allowing them to do things or make trades or hurt themselves financially easier than it used to be. But at the same time, I think it's opened up doors to allow people who do take the time to learn what they're doing and understand what they're doing, and who have the aptitude to do it. It's making it a lot easier for them. And for some of us that have been trading for years and years and years, it allows us to trade a lot easier too. It's cheaper. Um, so
Mm.
I think overall it's a great thing, but I do think that there may be a small population of traders that have been lured in by, oh no, there's no commission, and they have no idea what they're doing, or they get lured in by a Robinhood or a Webull or whatever, and they get with no commission at all, and they end up getting screwed too.
Yeah, somebody told me Robinhood doesn't even have commission on options, basically. Yeah, I see what you're saying. The ease of access, could be good, but those of you guys who have been doing it for a long time, though, you guys have to be killing it with this new situation. With no, how that's just my assumption. How much were the commissions back in like 2012? What would a commission be just to open a trade with you as a broker?
2012, as a broker, or if I'm just placing a trade? Because as a broker, there's always a broker assisted fee, and that could range anywhere from $35 to $75 depending on what firm you're with.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And that's on top of usually a 14 to $19 just ticket charge.
Wow. Yeah. We're just in a different place. That's
It's a
fascinating.
totally different place.
Um, so you leave that very stressful, I would imagine, high demand yet very uh, pedigree enabling career to trade on your own for the freedom that it provided. So,
Hmm.
what year was that when you left? When you went full
So
time?
when I so I had actually so as a broker, you can trade as long as you're not you can trade throughout the day as much as you want, as long as you're not using internal systems to trade. So if I was using the TD Ameritrade app, that was fine. Couldn't use, company proprietary trading software to place my own trades, but I could use software that was available to the public. So I was already trading full time,
Okay.
even while I was at TD Ameritrade. But I left corporate America in 2014.
Okay, so 2014. I'm very curious. So now you're doing it full time. You're on your own. You are your own boss. Where did black
Hmm.
box stocks come into play? How did you find your way
So
here?
Charlie found me. It's kind of funny
Always,
story.
it's
It's always Charlie, right? It is. It's always Charlie. He has a knack for finding the best people. Um, but he found me on StockTwits. I think I was helping someone on some low float board. There was some discussion. They were fighting about delisting, and I had the background. I had the knowledge to kind of go in there and be like, no, this is how it is. So I posted it, and I think it caught his eye. Um, so he started following me, and he DM'd me or whatever, and he was like, "Hey, I've got this. I work for Black Box Stocks. We've got this great software. It's going places. Let me tell you about it." And I blew him off for a while because where I came from,
you
I mean,
just
the world I came from,
yeah, yeah.
in that world, these algorithmic trading systems and stuff like that, it was a bunch of shit. Like no one believed in that. Everyone was like, no, that's a scam. Like I'm not touching that. So it took him a while
Oh
to get
wow.
me to actually even touch the system. But he was like, just give me like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Just let me talk to you about it. Let me explain it, and let me tell you about the company. And I was like, okay, fine. He wore me down, and he called me and walked me through the system. And then and at that time, we didn't have options. We only had the stock side of the platform, and we had OTC at the time, which we don't even deal with OTC anymore, but we had OTC.
Okay.
So he kind of talked to me a little bit about it, about the way the platform was at the time, and then he talked to me about not only his vision, the company's vision, our CEO, Gus Kepler, his vision, Eric Ferris, his vision, all the big guys, um, that have really helped progress and make our company. Um, he talked to me about their vision. And the more he talked to me about that, and the more I saw the potential there, and then, I actually tested it out and saw what was going on, I was like, you know what? This could actually be a phenomenal tool, not just for myself, but for any level of trader, any level.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I actually incorporated it into my trading, and again, at that time, I was trading mostly common shares. I wasn't trading, I mean, I traded options, but I wasn't trading solely options. I was trading mostly commons. So using, once I started using that system, and I saw, that my profits were going way up, I was like, wow, this actually does work.
Mm-hmm.
So, I started talking more and more to Charlie and became more involved. And he was like, hey, I want you to become involved in the community. You've got a lot of background. You can help me answer questions. Um, I think he told me at that point, do you want to be a moderator? And I told him no. I told him no for a solid 4 or 5 months, I think. It was a
Month.
while.
Yeah.
I was like,
Year, yeah. What year was this when he contacted you and you guys were?
2016. It was
Okay.
it was like October. I think the first time he contacted me was October 2017. I didn't actually talk to him until maybe early November
So
2016.
yeah. So one thing he had going against him was you had 2 full years at that point. You knew what it's like to be a full-time trader and be financially independent, and that's what
Yep.
partially what he was going. And then here comes the algorithmic guy.
Right. So, I mean, you get why for me I was like, "Oh, come on." I was like, "Just leave me alone. Like I don't want anything to do with this." But I'm so glad that he kind of just pushed me to like he convinced me, I shouldn't say push. He convinced me to just give him a little bit of time. And I'm glad I did because I mean, from where we were then to where we are now, it's absolutely it's mind-blowing. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I got a little bit of that story from Kang, and I know that you were there before him. And but just it's interesting to think like he talked about the early calls and how you guys had a couple hundred members. What was Black Box
Mhm.
Stocks like in those days when you joined?
So when I first joined, there was no voice chat whatsoever. We only had the chat on Black Box. It was just people talking to each other. Several of our moderators now were members. Jenny,
Hmm.
Bender was, early on. Teresa was early on. I think
Hmm.
Hell's Bells. I can't remember if Hell's came on while we were still before Discord or after. I want to say before though.
Hmm.
So, and Seven Star Mike also, I believe. So a lot of the moderators were members at one point, but we literally only had the chat that's on the main black box, just typing back and forth to each other.
Hmm.
And we would use the company's conference call line to go over earnings to trade earnings after hours. We would jump on that conference line, the company's conference line, or throughout the day, just randomly we'd tell everyone, call into the number. We're going to do a quick training session,
Oh,
and we'd have about 100 people, and just everyone talking, and we're trying to teach. It was hectic, but it was fun.
yeah, that sounds organic, and yeah, that sounds like something that was real at the time. And you
It
guys saw
was.
it. And it when did the growth really start happening in the company?
So I think we transitioned to Discord in 2017. Um, And 2017, 2018, we grew steadily. And as each year, I feel like we just continued to grow, like just enormously. Every single year, it's just like more and more and more. And even now, like the growth has not stopped. Like we continue to grow at an even faster rate than we have in previous years.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, the more members that we acquire, the more that not just word of mouth, but the more visibility we have with the trading community, worldwide, not just nationwide, worldwide, and the more members it brings in.
Oh, yeah, I love how, and of course, I mean, I'm very new to this whole thing, so I mean, I've only seen the bigness that it is. But like, I love how there is a lot of international members. I really do love
It's
that.
great.
In the intro class, there'll be people always kind of stop and say, "Hey, where are you guys in our country or the world?" And it's like there is just all over countries, all over the place. I think it's an
Absolutely.
amazing thing. There's people from India, there's people from South America, people from everywhere, and that's a great thing. And you're saying it wasn't like that back in the conference call days.
Well, it was. So here's the thing is we actually did have members, even back in 2016, 2017, we did have members around the world.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think it's just grown so much. It's grown exponentially where there's more and more members um, in countries outside of the US. that are Black Box members. But we did have members outside of the US even back then.
So, yeah, I mean, so he talked you into it, is what it came down to. And when did the, because you have your own life going on, whatever is going on through all these years we're covering. I mean, you're doing your thing, you're doing your personal life, and everything is going on, and you're trading 2 years on your own, and now you're headed back toward job land a little bit, right? You're headed back a little bit toward being involved in a company, and then very involved with a company. And like, when did it get to the point where you are on voice? I know you said 2017 with Discord, but was the voice thing from bell to bell immediately in 2017, or did that evolve?
Yes.
Okay.
No. It was from jump, and it wasn't just bell to bell at that time. We were like 8 a.m. until after hours closed. So 8 p.m. sometimes we were on all day long. There
Wow.
was always people on voice because again, we had a smaller community. More people could people more people could I'm so sorry, me and my mic are fighting. More people could be on voice together. Now we've got 6,000 plus members. We can't have
Oh
all
yeah.
6,000 on voice. We can only have moderators.
Right.
But yeah, bell to bell was from the very beginning.
So yeah, so from 17 till now, obviously, this voice thing is just such a huge part. You guys doing all the leading and discussing. It's a giant thing. So I think about that often when I hear you guys, you know, publicly trading and doing your thing, and I always think, they have lives outside of this, which is, know, uh, everyone in black box stocks, please remember they have lives outside of the
Right.
black.
We do.
That's
We
what
do.
I'm really curious about, this idea of what is it like? What do we need to know about, you and Kang and Mel and everybody? And of course, there's the Roadhouse side of things and all the amazing things that are happening. But what is it like to be on voice, to so many people, all day long? Just tell me, like, what's like good and bad about that.
It can be the most frustrating thing in the world, but at the same time be the best feeling in the world because we are changing lives. We make a difference. And when I say that, I'll say this for every single moderator that
Mm,
that is a part of Black Box, and we all share this common goal or mission to where we truly just want to give back. We want to help people learn how to do it on their own. We don't, when Kang was a member, I didn't want Kang just following my trades. I wanted Kang to learn more and evolve to the point where Kang was the one giving out plays. And guess what? Kang is. And he
he sure
kills it.
he kills it. That's
And he was killing it with commons, but he just had to learn the options part. But I wanted Kang to get to that point, and he does. Same with Jenny. Jenny started off as a member. Um, it wasn't that I didn't want Jenny to just sit there and follow my trades. I want Jenny to be the one giving those trades. I want her to learn, or King or whoever, Joe Schmo, to learn trading so well that they are confident enough to create their own wealth. And every single one of our moderators has that same goal, that same vision, to where we truly just want to teach people and help them learn and to do it in as little pain as possible because your moderators, all the moderators, we've made every mistake that you can fucking think of. Every single trading mistake that can be made, we've already made them. We don't need our members to make those same mistakes. We've already done them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can be frustrating because you always have people that don't want to listen to what you have to say. They want to do it by themselves, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating because you want to reach out and touch them and help them, right? Like you want to be like, hey, don't do that. Let me help you. But if they're not willing to accept that help, there's not much that you can do, right? And it's
Yeah.
so rewarding because you get messages, that members will say, "Hey, I paid for a year of my mom's cancer therapy with the trades from last week,"
Mhm.
or "I just bought my parents a house," or "I just paid off all my student loans," or "I was literally 2 steps away from living in my car and I've got money. I've got money for rent for the rest of the year."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's stuff like that where it really hits you on the heart, where you're like, you know what? we're not just teaching, we are making a difference. We are making people's lives better. And they're doing it in a way that they can continue to do that for themselves.
Mm.
But as far as actually being on voice, it is so hectic. I will tell you guys, it is extremely hectic because we're not just on voice. We are on voice. We do have to try to keep up with chat. We're watching a bajillion charts. We're watching news. We're watching flow. We're watching for stuff from the back end, from the office. Do we need to do X, Y, and Z? Is there going
Mm.
to be maintenance on some part? We might be down for a second. Or is something going right? Is something going wrong? We've got to watch out for that. We're answering phone calls, sometimes from Charlie, sometimes from the office. We're also posting on social media all day long. We're answering direct messages um, all day long. So it's very, very hectic. It can be extremely hectic. But again, every single one of us loves what we do, and we're truly passionate about what we do.
Well, I mean, I can hear the passion in your voice clearly. I mean, you said you want to you teaching people to create their own wealth. And 7-Star Mike, when I spoke with him the first 2 episodes, he said what was amazing to him as a trader is when the pandemic hit, he had a job, he was okay.
Absolutely.
He was okay. So this
Absolutely.
idea, people do need, I think they do understand that, but people should understand. You guys are such advanced traders. You don't need to come to Black Box to, pay your bills. Your guys are doing these things like to give back and to help people to create their own wealth in a place. We're in a situation where a lot of people are dependent on a lot of things, and why not learn these trading skills to better yourself? So yeah, I can hear that passion
Absolutely.
with all of you guys, and that's a powerful thing. If you were if you were still a broker at wherever TD Ameritrade, that's an amazing career, et cetera, et cetera. But would people be emailing you saying that you helped them pay for their parents' chemo treatment? But
No,
it wouldn't
never.
that wouldn't be happening. So
No,
that's a powerful moment there. I
it
love that.
is. And that's you bring up a good point. I think it was I think Hell's Bells says it a lot, but that was a big thing for me was as long as there's a market, I'm gonna make money. As long as there is a market,
Yeah, never.
I have a way to make money, and kind of resonates with what Mike said too. When the pandemic hit, he didn't have to worry about being fired or if he had a job to go to or come back to. He had a way to make money.
That's right. That's right. And I know I paraphrased him badly. I mean, he was very
No,
cognizant
no.
and aware that that's not the case for so many people, and a lot of people. He understood.
Right.
He made all that clear, but he made the point that um, traders who know what they're doing did okay, and it's a powerful thing because
Absolutely.
here we are. We're it's Saturday. We're all living creatures, and we're here for a while. And this is a way that people can improve the time we're here. So that's what I see you guys as doing. You're doing these jobs, these moderating, these helping, all the things you described, and you hear a lot of great positive outcomes. And there's it's not all great, like you said. It's really frustrating sometimes, and
It can
I'm
be.
sure the good things have to outweigh the bad things, but does it get tough sometimes?
Absolutely. Yes. 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 It definitely gets tough. It gets tough.
Oh,
Being a moderator is very stressful. It's very stressful. Like when I say it's very stressful,
yeah.
we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because we know how big our community is, and we know that when we put a trade out, people are going to follow it. I don't care if I lose money.
Mhm.
I don't want a single one of my members to lose money ever. That is the
Mhm.
worst feeling in the world. So trying to determine a trade or a play or setup that is solid enough that someone can follow me into it and out of it successfully and make money, the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves to find those kind of plays is
Mhm.
unimaginable. I can't like it is a lot. So that in itself is stressful. And then, you know, being in that trade, managing that trade, knowing that there are people relying on you to update them, to tell them when you're exiting, to say, hey, we're coming up on resistance, do something, or take your profit, or I'm taking mine. Don't know what you're doing, but I'm telling you I'm taking mine. So that in itself, it's very stressful. That is the most stressful part of it is the amount of pressure that the moderators put on ourselves
Hmm.
to make sure that we're being diligent and in giving out quality setups to our traders, right? Because there are so many rooms out there, and there are so many rooms that like to front run, that like to sell their
Hmm.
shares or their contracts to their members, and you've got the moderators making money and no one else is.
Yeah. Right.
Black Box does not operate like that ever, and we never will, ever. So
Right
that
on.
is obvious. And you also have times where there are members that will say, "Hey, I just lost $200,000 on this trade," and you're
Um,
like, man, and you're like, "Well, how much was your account? 250,000 or 210,000 or I had 205,000."
blew it up.
Or you've got someone that's like, "Hey, I had a $2,000 account. I'm down to $100. What do I do?" Like, well, why are you coming to me now when you lost 1,900 of it? Should have came to me earlier. But that hurts because we'd never want to hear anyone say that. Um, so that can be very frustrating as well, is when people have lost money and there's not a lot you can do at
Yeah.
that point.
Well, and not to mention if it's a trade you took and you may have lost on that trade too. So you're dealing with that,
Absolutely. Yep.
whatever that is, and then you have this other stuff. And I wonder, do those stresses specifically, are they getting worse as the membership grows?
I think the quantity naturally tends to increase. It's a numbers game at that point, right? The more members you have, you're naturally going to have the percentage of people that are not cut out to be traders is going to increase as well, right? So I think that could mean that you see an increase. Have I personally seen an increase? Um, I don't want to say yes. I'll be honest. I really don't want to say yes.
Okay.
I think that what I will say though is that I think that the moderators in general have done a really awesome job, a great job in um, defining risk and making sure that members understand each moderator's risk, and
Mhm.
making sure that members understand that, hey, I'm taking this risk. Now you have to determine your risk, and if it doesn't meet your risk profile, I need you to get out. So I don't want to say yes, but yes, because naturally as numbers go up, that percentage is also going to go up, right?
Yeah, sure, sure. But the percentage doesn't necessarily increase in your case.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I've always just found it real fascinating to hear you guys do your thing and just imagining like, whatever you're doing other than this has got to amount to a really significant, I hate to say it, but a really significant 9 to 4:30 job in some ways. Yeah.
It does, to a certain extent, right? But I also feel like I don't work. It's funny because you said you found yourself transitioning back to more of a job, which is true. It is true. I do work for Black Box. Majority of my income comes from my trading, but I do work for Black Box, which is a job. But I don't feel like I'm working because I get to do what I love, right? My job is to trade,
That's it. That's it. Right. That's great.
right? My job is to trade and to answer questions. So it doesn't feel like a job, which I think is what everyone should strive to do, right? In their own careers. Like that's true, that's a measure of true happiness, is you doing something that you love to the point where you don't even feel like you're working. Like
Yeah,
I'm really just hanging out with my friends.
that's
I'm hanging out, we're talking about stocks, we're looking at charts, answering a couple questions here and there, and it's not really a job. Like I don't feel like I'm clocking in and out.
you're saying woohoo on a regular basis in your
We sing songs during the day.
someone wants to know, how do you put up with Kank?
Kang, I love Kang. Oh my gosh, Kang is amazing. He is one of my favorites. I think so. Kang has this amazing ability to just inject just the right amount of humor to keep things
Yeah.
funny but interesting, and to kind of relieve tension. Like we've had a really, like, if you look the last 2.5 3 weeks or so,
Oh
we've
yeah.
had a really intense couple of weeks.
Yes.
And at least with the members I've talked to, no one's on the verge of a breakdown. Like anyone I've talked to, no one's on the verge of a breakdown. And I think a big part of that is Kang and the other moderators keeping everyone calm. And part of that is Kang's humor, his songs, his constant reminders, um, his ability to joke and kind of just bring the other moderators in. It keeps things light, and I think that that balance is absolutely necessary because no one is 100% productive, right?
Mm,
No
sure.
one can ever be, 100% productive. So it's just the right amount. So I love Kang to death. I mean, he's an amazing trader. He was an amazing member. I'm honored that he's a part of our team now,
Oh,
and I think he does an amazing job, as do the rest of our moderators as well.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're right about the back and forth and the different, just the different value. I've had people tell me that they see you guys on Voice as a form of entertainment. Like they're entertained by it.
Right?
Love it.
That's
I've,
good. That's good.
I've heard people say that like the Roadhouse with Hells and Bender is like their favorite podcast. I've heard that mentioned. You know, people
Right?
they love the idea of just hearing you guys, and you become features in people's lives, and that's got to
Right.
be an amazing thing that you just won't get at TD Ameritrade, right? So
No, absolutely not.
um but yeah, it's interesting too. One thing about your story, so you had those jobs as a broker and you didn't necessarily hate them, because a lot of people who want to go full-time trading, sometimes in my experience it just seems like they're in a job they don't like, right? Or
Right.
they're in some job they really hate and they're not, so you don't seem to be motivated by that. That's interesting that you had a job, a career, established career that you enjoyed, and and you still felt the urge to go full time. And I think that's an interesting facet of all this for sure.
So, and I think a lot of it is the fact that I'm also, at least career wise, I'm very motivated by money, as is any trader. That's why you're trading, right? Is you want to make money. And when your own trades, are well exceeding your whole annual income within, a couple weeks, you're
Wow.
making your entire annual income.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason for you to be in a 9 to 5. If as long as, let me rewind, that's not like a one play thing. Consistency is important, right? It's process over profit, always process over profit. So if you've nailed your process down to the point where you're consistently green and you've completely more than replaced your income, and you don't feel the need to be at a 9 to 5, why do it? I'd rather work for myself. I'd rather be, I'd rather come to work in my PJs or some leggings. I don't have to get ready. I just come to the computer and hang out with y'all.
You got it made. I mean, there's no doubt. People who want to leave a career for full-time trading, especially retail trading on your own, like you just need to have the data. Do you have? Is it a sound decision? And what you just described, making your yearly income, and yeah, why not? That's great. But I think there are
Exactly.
still people who would not do that because they would fear leaving the confines, the safe structure of the
Hmm.
typical, Western employment. I think there's still people
Absolutely.
who might make 5 times their income in 6 months and still not be able to leave that full-time security.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. I know people like that. I know people who
Okay.
are absolutely amazing traders, and they will never leave their 9 to 5.
Hmm. Hmm.
They've got their 401ks, they've got benefits, they've got vacation time. We don't get vacation time. If I take vacation, I'm not making money those days,
Are you able?
right?
That's a personal question. Are you able to take
Mhm.
vacations, or are you trading on your
Yeah.
phone? Like,
Am I physically capable of it? Probably not. I am a very
okay.
type A personality that works a lot. I've always been that way. So, and I always joke with Charlie, like, I'm gonna take a vacation for like a week and I'm gonna turn my phone off. And he always laughs. He's like, no, you won't. And I'm like, you're right, I won't. You
Yeah,
know?
I just think, I mean, that's just I'm very interested in this notion of that's kind of a worldview thing, really. Like this idea, if do what do we really need from employment, right? What do we really need?
Exactly.
And like you're saying, you're motivated by capital, you're motivated by
Yeah.
money, having it, and there's a lot of I find that very
And I
interesting.
think And I think the way you go about it is also super important. Like I was blessed to be in a situation where I didn't have to worry financially about making money initially. So I wasn't relying on my trading income to
Right.
pay my bills. And that's what I tell people who are trying to make that transition is that the transition itself is mentally challenging enough. Dealing
Yeah.
with the fact that you're not part of a company, you're not part of corporate America, you don't have those same kind of benefits, you don't have, you know, your 401k, you're paying taxes on your own, all that stuff. Dealing with that mentally is a lot as it is. You need to have 10, you know, Charlie will tell you 12 months. I will tell people 2 to 3 years of reserves
Mm.
before you make that switch because you have to remove as much emotion from
Mm.
that situation
Mm.
as you possibly, and that's, you know, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was about to ask you is what practical advice do you have for people wanting to transition? So that's important for people to hear. You guys, you're saying Charlie says 12 months, but you're saying a year or
two to
two,
three years
not
two
3
to
years
three
of cash in a savings account that
hmm
you can't trade off you can't live off your trading account when you're trying to make it happen.
No, no, because you're going to mess up. I promise. It
Right.
happens to every single person that I know that has gone from full-time job to full-time trading and not had enough money sitting aside. And there's going to be exceptions here and there, but the
Mm.
majority of people, as soon as they make that transition, they start their trades just red, 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 red. Why? Because now all of a sudden they're like, shit, I gotta be green today because I need to pay rent or I need to pay my mortgage. I've got a car payment. I've got not just my car insurance. I've got health insurance that is now a lot more expensive. You know, my kid has to go on a field trip or whatever. Like they've got sports. I've got to pay for that. So they're so worried about whether or not they're going to make money, they cannot see the chart. They're going to make the chart be whatever they want it to be because they need to be green
Mm.
instead
Yeah.
of actually being able to see a trend or see what's happening in the market and see what's happening to the chart. So that's why I say 2 to 3 years minimum
Mm.
so that you can sit there and do it as stress free as possible because you're already dealing with the fact that you don't have that 9 to 5 anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's a huge thing that I hope a lot of people hear because I mean I'm sure you hear way more than I have, but I mean I hear stories of people who are leaving a job they hate and they want to trade full time and they don't have much money saved up, and it's
Right.
yeah, that seems to be a difficult situation. Have you known anyone to succeed in that situation? Just curious.
Yeah, eventually they do. I know several that, you know, have actually gone back to a full-time job and then come back to trading and then succeeded.
Mm.
And I do know a few people that were able to, once they realized what was going on, you know, and that's through having conversations with myself, with the other moderators, with Charlie, have been able to say, okay, this is why I'm messing up, right? Um, and then they were able to kind of correct their thought process. But for the people that don't have a support network of traders around them, I think for them it's incredibly different. And I think, and you know, and I could be wrong, but I think it's rare for that person that doesn't have a support network of traders around them. It's very rare for that person to be able to succeed,
Hmm. Yeah, I would agree.
truly succeed. I mean, long term, meaning
Right.
make a career out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, the idea of winning trades, or having trades go successfully, and getting up, whatever is serious money to the individual. That's different than what you're
Yep.
talking about having a trading
Yeah.
career. Um, and
Exactly.
I'm not a full time trader, so I don't know what it's like. So I love hearing you guys talk about it, and um, it kind of transitions to this idea of like, so you love trading, obviously, you're very passionate about it.
hmm
Um,
Yeah.
you're doing great. Uh, do you have any sort of an end goal in mind, or is this something you love so much you're just going to keep trading into the unforeseeable future and not even worry about what's next, or early retirement?
I, I'm I'm the so I actually do consider myself technically retired because retired in my mind is retired from the corporate world, right? Because this is what I love to do,
So this is your
right?
retirement. This is your
This
retirement.
this is retirement. Yeah. For me, it is.
Oh,
And
that's
are there other side hustles that pop up, whether it's real estate or this or the other that create extra revenue streams? I'm always interested in that. But I'm doing this until for as long as God lets my mind continue to do it. I'm going to keep doing it.
yeah, yeah, right on. Oh, so yeah, I don't. And by the way, there's definitely let you guys know out there. I do see comments and questions, and there's a lot, and we got Mario here for a limited amount of time, so we'll definitely get to some of these questions in a minute. And a couple questions kind of get to this idea of trading the open, which I definitely am interested to talking to you about. I will say there's a couple people have asked, did you have a specific trading mentor in the early years of your trading career? You talked about trading in the
No,
reality. Were you alone?
no.
It was
I was a lone wolf, like a fish out of water. And now I really was. It took me a while. And then, okay, so here's what I'll say. Trading is a very lonely career if you don't know other traders.
mm,
It can be extremely lonely. And granted, through work, I was able to get some help from people who had been brokers for longer than I have. Obviously, I had the professional knowledge to kind of guide me too, but the emotional part, the psychology part that was very, very much trial and error, and
mm,
really, really taking a deep look inside of myself to make changes so that I could train my mind to be a trader.
mm,
And then, and what's funny is I don't know how long StockTwits has been around, but when I found that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I had no, and at that point, I
yeah,
didn't know there was traders on Twitter. I had no idea. I didn't
yeah,
even know what StockTwits. I had no idea what StockTwits was.
mhm,
So knowing that there was this website or this app, this social community of nothing but traders really opened my mind, and I was able to network. And lucky enough that Charlie reached out to me and kind of kept at me to bring me into Black Box. And I think that truly helped. Like I think that's a huge component of being successful in trading is you need to have traders in your life because not everyone trades. Like I can't just go to my friends and be like, "Hey, what do you think about doing a condor on Apple?" You know what I mean? Or what do you think about buying some ES?
yeah.
September expiration. They have no idea what I'm talking about for the most part. Some of them might, but
They're like, it's kind
most of them don't know.
yeah.
So, go ahead, sorry.
No, no. I was just saying, how many of your friends do trade? Are you surrounded by non-traders mostly, or not?
So I have several friends that invest. So
Mhm.
they've got their 401ks and then they've got IRAs. And they'll ask me to look at their holdings and be like, is this okay? And as far as actual trading, I've got a couple that are more on the crypto side, but um, none of my personal close friends are trading options or trading the way we trade. They're not trading daily.
So this part of your life has to be just a mystery to them, just a big, confusing mystery, I bet.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Um, One of our members, Lamont,
Okay.
Lamont is out in California, I believe. He's out in California. He's a good dude. He's been a member for several years now, and he actually knows one of my really good friends, Lou,
Oh,
who me and my sister work out with. And one day Lamont just recently sent me a message. He's like, "How do you know Lou?" And I'm like, "Wait, how do you know Lou?" So I guess Lamont said something to Lou about no, she's really like you don't understand. And so that was just like a clue from my friends. So now a couple of them are like, "Hey, I heard that like you're kind of a big deal." And I'm like, "I don't really consider myself a big deal, but yeah, I do trade. Like, we have a lot of members." So it's kind of funny where like no,
yeah,
they really don't like,
they don't know. They don't know at all.
right? Like they know I trade. Far as the visibility that I have within Black Box or even on social media and stuff like that, they don't. And I honestly, because I know they don't trade, I don't really bring it up much. I don't talk about it very much.
Yeah, it seems like non-trading friends don't really care. I don't know, they don't get it. They think it's just
They
gambling.
don't.
They think
Well, I don't. So I think that my friends are open-minded enough. They don't think it's gambling. They may not fully comprehend what I do. Like they get the gist, but I just don't think that it's it's not what they do, right? They can't, they don't relate to it the way another trader would relate to it.
Well, speaking of trading that some people, consider gambling, a couple comments here, and I'm very interested in. I've been in this camp where you sit out the first 15 minutes, right? You give it some
Mhm.
time, you let the market shake out, you avoid the temptation of jumping into that sheer volume right at the open. And a lot of the members know you trade the open. And I want you to teach me. Tell me three things I need to do to trade the open, because to me it seems like such huge opportunity.
I will tell you, news, and news.
Okay,
Those are that is
I'm
the
writing
big
this
thing.
down.
So
I'm writing it down.
so for me, if I'm trading at the open, I have to have a good reason why. I'm not just randomly trading. There's no technical pattern at the open. It's straight
Yeah,
momentum at
right.
that point, right? I'm not just like, oh, there's one candle up, let me trade it. No, that's not what I'm doing. There needs to be some kind of news, and I need to see some kind of market pre-volume to support the news, right?
Mm,
To show me that there's some kind of momentum there. And then I'll take a trade. And it might not be that opening candle. I might wait a candle. I might wait two candles, but I will definitely trade within those first 15 minutes. And sometimes, especially during ER season,
right.
um, if it's a good enough ER and I see the right kind of volume coming in pre-market, I'm trading right at the open. I'll have like it'll be 8:30 in 25 seconds and I'm already in,
Mm,
or 9:30 Eastern. I'm Central.
right.
So it the biggest part is going to be there needs to be a reason. If there's no reason, then there's no reason, right? You can't just say, "Oh, green candle, I'm in." There
Yeah.
has to be a reason.
How many days a week do you think you trade within the first 5 minutes?
Minimum of four.
Okay. Okay.
Let's say three to four.
What's the soonest you've ever been done for the day?
8:45, 9:45 Eastern,
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So
maybe a little sooner.
So news and pre-market volume is what's going on, and is
Yes.
that like as far as your intraday active trading? So 4 days a week is like what percentage of your trading is at the open? Is that a pretty big part of it?
I'd say about 80%.
Wow.
80% of my trading is going to come not just in the first 15 minutes. I'd say the first hour and a half to 2 hours.
Right.
80% of my trading is going to come during that time. Um, it's funny because Kang and I both scalp. I'm a lot more comfortable scalping in the first couple of hours, where Kang is a lot more comfortable scalping the rest of the day, or after the first
Yeah.
15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever. Um, every trader is different, and that's okay. That doesn't make one trader better than the other, or that person can't do XYZ. It's not that. It's just different people excel at different things, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I tend to do better first thing in the morning, whereas Kang might do better waiting just a little bit, or Mel might do better. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is, she's going to do well,
Hmm.
right? And that's okay
Yeah.
because it's very individual. It doesn't have you don't have to be like Kang. You don't have to be like Mel. You don't have to be like me. You need to be like you, and you have to find what works best for you. If
Hmm.
trading the open doesn't work best for you, then don't do it. If trading not trading all day long until 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock Eastern,
Mhm.
if only trading that last hour works best for you, guess what? Only trade that last hour.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Did you, how long did it take you to kind of gravitate toward the open? Was that something from the very beginning, or did that come with time? Imagine that probably came with time to do that with any kind of size.
So surprising. Well, with size, it took time, but I was always apt to trade first thing. Just for
Mm,
some reason, that it just I tended to do a lot better right then, and from there it just became a matter of confidence and just fine tuning what kind of news is actually going to move a ticker, what ticker is going to have the best kind of move, um, and sizing up slowly, right? When people talk about sizing up, when you're talking about large size, which with scalping, especially scalping options, size can get up there.
yeah.
You can't go from trading, 5 contracts or one contract to trading 100 contracts. You can't do that. You really, really have to take it super, super slow and size up very, very slowly so that you're comfortable. Because there's always a point for traders where they go from one number of contract to another number of contracts, and all of a sudden they're blowing up their account. And that might be they're totally fine with the swings in their account when there's 5 contracts, but the second they add that 6th contract, just the movement in their P&L, even though I tell people don't look at your P&L, the movement in the P&L just throws them completely off and they can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's always a
Yeah.
So, it's sizing up takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, extreme patience, a lot of discipline, and it needs to be done slowly. You cannot rush that.
Right. I would imagine, like, I remember when I went from 5 contracts to like the first time I did 15 contracts, I wasn't any good. I had to go back and start over.
Yep,
It was
absolutely.
set up. It was the same stuff I was looking for. It was the same. It's just the psychological factor was just tenfold,
Hmm.
and it wasn't even a huge
Absolutely.
financial risk to me personally, but still there was just something about it.
Because you have 15 contracts,
15
and you're
times
like,
whatever. That's right. That's right.
yeah,
I'll keep P&L off the screen, but it just doesn't work. I'll see the percentage.
absolutely.
I do better if I
Yep.
watch the percentage gain or loss instead of P&L. But so, do you have like a specific set of tickers that you do at the open, or is it really just whatever's moving with news and pre-market volume?
So it's pretty much whatever's moving with news and pre-market volume, but I will tell you that the majority of the time it's going to be your high beta names, your growth names, your tech, that likes to move a lot. Those are going to be the ones that typically have the best moves.
Yeah.
So I don't have a specific set of tickers like King has his sandbox.
Yep.
I used to have a sandbox and I've just added a whole crap ton of tickers to that box.
Yeah. Right. Right. So okay. So imagine I have the volume is there pre-market, the news is there, and I'm going to go in. So if you're talking a pure momentum, just a momentum opening. So what do you just close when things feel shaky, or when you're happy? What does closing look like when you're just scalping momentum right off of the open?
So it depends. There's going to be times where we hit a point like I'll use pre-market resistance or support and resistance for pre-market to help me determine, especially in those first couple minutes.
Yeah.
But if things look like, well, let's say that there's an ER and we're coming up to pre-market resistance or whatever, and I'm long. I will scale out at that point. So I'll start scaling out. I might take half the position off at that point,
Mm.
or a quarter, or 3/4, depending on how confident I am in the actual move. Uh, and then I'll let the trade move, right? If we look like we're going to break through resistance, I'm going to hang on to it. There will be times though where you've got this huge rush right at the open. You've got 2 or 3 candles. It moves a lot, and you look at it. You're hitting resistance, and you just got to get out.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
just take what you can, and that's a huge problem for people who are learning to scalp because they're like, man, I left so much money on the table. Get used to it if you want to scalp because it's going to happen all the time. You don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the next candle, next 4 candles, next 5 candles. We can't tell the future.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as I've told members many times, your job is not to make money. It's assumed everyone wants to make money. We know that. Your job is to mitigate risk. It's to stay green while you're
Mm-hmm.
in that trade. So take your money. You can always buy it again, but you can't always get that same profit back again.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you're in the trade, you're just a risk manager at that point. You're mitigating the risk.
Yeah,
You're protecting
yeah,
whatever you and
exactly.
yeah, that's
And our
so.
job is not to catch the whole move, right? So that's another big thing for people who are trying to scalp is they're like, well, I need to get in at the very bottom and get out at the very top. No, you don't. That's not, and actually your job as a scalper is not to do that. Your job is to take a small move and make money off of that.
Relatively larger position, small moves,
Right.
repeat. Um,
Exactly.
so here's a couple people have asked this question. This is an important question. So the idea of after you blow up an account, how do you gain confidence to trade again? A couple people have asked that, and I think that's a very important question. And I know you have the experience, helping people. So, you know, before we
And
get
I've had personal experience too. I blew up 3 accounts when I started.
3 accounts, okay.
Yeah.
Well, how?
My trading education cost me 150 grand.
Oh,
So I
wow.
definitely blew up accounts.
So 150K, and you obviously have come back roaring. So
Yep.
that's the question. How do you gain confidence after you've blown up an account?
Very slowly, very, very, very slowly. It's going to be, again, it's really, really being critical of yourself and your process and understanding that process comes first, process over profit, always. If you nail down your process, your profit will follow, I promise. Eventually it will. So what that means is that you have to stop trying to hit home runs. That is what everyone tries to do, especially when they're trying to build back an account. They're like, man, I just blew up a grand.
Hmm.
And now I need to make 2 grand. I need to do it today. No, you don't. Your goal should be start off super small. I don't care if you make $1 today. Practice being green. It could be 50 cents. It could be $100. It could be $1. Doesn't matter as long as you're green. So if you go into a trade and you're green, stop. You're done.
Hmm.
You're done right there. Don't keep trying to go back and get more and more and more. Stop. Take a break. Walk away. Calm down, understand that you're green, you know you're green, you got to get back into the mindset to where, okay, I'm starting from scratch now. Now I need to be green, right? I need to practice being green. So it's just repetition. It's literally trying to become almost robotic in your trading. Buy, sell, buy, sell. It's not, oh shit, did I miss this? Oh crap, I missed out on, 500 more percent. No, that's not what it's about. It is about practicing buy, sell and staying green while you're doing it. When you take off the pressure of trying to get the entire move, when you remove the pressure of I missed out on X, Y, and Z, or I missed that trade, or so and so got X amount, and blah, blah, blah. Once you remove all of that and focus on just what you are doing, things start to become a lot easier.
Hmm.
So it's just trying to nail down that process, and that confidence will build the more green trades that you have under your belt. But I will say you have to become robotic in your trading. You have to remove the emotion, and that is the hardest part for any trader is removing the emotion from a trade, right? Because we're all emotionally attached to our money. All
Hmm.
we all are.
Sure, that's right. It's equated with survival in our
Yep.
paradigm. I think it even cues evolutionary fears, in my opinion. We
Right.
equate it with survival, and when we lose money, our survival is threatened. And you know,
Absolutely.
you're down like you said, $150,000. That's tough. That I don't have that experience, but it has to be really hard to come back. And you're saying take small greens a lot
Repeatedly.
take your time.
Over and over and over again. Yep.
And that clearly goes back to your comment of, if you're trying to do this full time, you have to have that exit discipline. You have to have the ability, not to blow up an account because if
Hmm.
you don't have the 2 or 3 years of cash, sitting in a savings
Right.
account, it's going to be very difficult to do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
150, and then here you are. That's just a fantastic. How long did it take you to get confident again after that? Say you kept trying. You said 3 accounts. So you
I
blown up.
did 3 accounts fairly quickly too, like back to back to back. Um, I want to say from to the point that it took me to the point where I was fully confident in what I was doing. It took me about 5 years total between blowing up accounts, learning what I didn't know, relearning what I needed to know, practicing, getting consistent, understanding sizing, risk management, all that stuff, and getting fully confident in what I was doing. I want to say about 5 years.
Mm-hmm. That's important. People, like you just said, people want to make that money back. That's the idea. I've got to make the money back.
Hmm.
And they want to do it quick because, they're emotional and they've lost a bunch of money. They need the
Right.
money. And if nothing else, even if they don't need the money, they might feel a certain way having lost something.
Hmm.
5 years.
It's an ego thing, pride. Yeah.
Hmm.
5 years. And I made money during that time period, but I'm saying to be fully confident in
Right.
myself, right? Because your own self confidence gets shaken when you blow up accounts. and you lose every penny that you put into the market, your self-confidence gets shaken to its core. And you're like, you know what? Maybe I'm just not meant to do this.
Yeah.
Um, some of it is each person's own determination, their own willingness to learn, their own willingness to change. And that in itself is difficult, right? Being willing to change is hard.
Mhm.
Um, but when a person has all of that and they have the willingness to learn, they have the willingness to change, and they are determined to do it, they'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. I truly believe that.
Mhm.
And I think that was the case with me is I like once I started when I became a broker, everything clicked. I was like, yes, this is what I want to do this.
Mhm.
I'm going to do this. Whether I do this for a company or myself, I'm going to do this.
Mhm. Dedicate.
So yeah, dedication, determination. You have to have that ability, and you have to. So another thing is, I always like I keep sticky notes on my computer, but I kept a sticky note on there for a long time that said it's what did it say? It said on there, it's already gone. So that was my
Mm.
constant reminder. The
Yeah.
money's already gone.
Already
I
gone.
gotta let it go. And that was my daily constant reminder. Anytime my mind would go to like, man, I can't believe I did that. It's already gone. Can't do anything about it.
Can't get
I
it
can
back.
only, yeah, can't go backwards. I can only go forward.
At that third account, did you still have that resolve, or did you quit for a minute? Did you walk? Did you think this is it?
I didn't quit. I took a step back. I did. I took a step back in the sense that I didn't trade with my own. I didn't trade with my own money. I traded on paper, and we didn't have like TD Ameritrade paper trading accounts at that point. Like literally on notebook paper.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
this is my entry, this is my exit. I did that for probably about 4 or 5 months to where I'm like, okay, I've got my shit together. I've got my brain back together. I'm ready to do this. And then what I did is I put just a little bit of money, and this is another thing I tell people is put money into an account that you're willing to lose. It has to
Yes.
be 100% completely disposable.
It's
I
already
put
gone.
a little bit of money. Yeah, it's already gone. You have to make that assumption. If you're not comfortable with that, then you need to take some out. But I started, and I still have an account like that on the side where it's a small account. When I start messing up in my own trades, I jump into that small account because I don't have a choice but to make good trades in a small account, right? I
Yeah.
have to be more disciplined, and that kind of helps bring me back around. But that's what I did is I traded on paper for several months, actual notebook paper, and then when I felt like I had my shit back together, then I started super small in a small account, and I kept that account super small for probably about a year. And then
Mm-hmm.
I slowly, when I felt like I was emotionally ready to
Mm-hmm.
handle more money, I put some more money in,
Mm.
and I slowly just increased it. And then obviously, you're making money at the same time, so the amount's going up anyway.
Yeah. Right. Right. So that is a slow process you just outlined. That's years coming
It
back
is.
to get.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 5 years. Took about 5 years. The learning part is easy. Like learning technical analysis, fundamental analysis, learning facts is super easy. The
Yeah.
hard part is your emotions, is learning how to manage yourself and your risk.
Do you think it? Uh, does it appear obvious in your opinion often? I mean, of course, you don't know everyone, but when people get to the point where maybe trading is just not for them because they cannot manage certain emotions, do you think that
Mhm.
becomes obvious for some people, or is that just a thing people should try to push through?
Uh, That's a hard question. So there are people that prior members where we've had to tell them that you need to stop trading. Like, please stop trading. We're refunding your money.
Yeah.
You need to not trade ever because they're that emotional
Okay.
in their trading, and it shows. Like they're like, man, I'm down X amount, and literally 25 seconds later, oh, I'm buying it again. And I'm
Mm.
like, man, I'm down. Oh, no, 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 I'm buying it again. No, 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 I'm selling. No, 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 I'm buying. It's just constant back and forth. And you can almost, in the way that they're telling you they're trading, you can feel their desperation. You know that they are desperate to do something. And sometimes we do have to tell people like, this is not for you. You're not ready. You're either not ready for this or you are not meant to be a trader. And that's okay. Go find something that you are good at.
Yeah.
Right. And not everyone's going to be a trader. It's not easy. It's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. Not everyone is meant to be a trader, just like not everyone's meant to be a surgeon or a doctor or a lawyer. right?
Mhm.
Everyone has something that they're going to excel at. And it doesn't have to be trading. So, we have told people like, I don't want you to lose any more of your money. Stop.
Yeah.
Like, here, take your membership fee back, whatever, if you're an annual, we're refunding whatever amount. You're monthly, we're going to refund the month. Just stop losing your money. We don't want you to lose it.
Yeah, that's one of the many ways black box stocks is just legit. There are places that would just continue to take that money and continue to
Yeah.
just scam people. And yeah, that's heartening to hear because you're right. Sometimes people want to do this super bad, and for some reason they don't want to just do it part time. They really want to do it, or they're doing it part time, but they want to use big positions, et cetera, for whatever reason. And there's a point that hopefully the individuals will know, and hopefully they took your advice and just stop.
Several have.
That's
Several
good.
have. Like, we've actually heard from some of them where they've come back and thanked us like, hey, thank you so much. Like I understand, like I get it now. Like they may not get it at the time, but they're like, I get it now. Like I understand that I'm not
Right.
meant to be a day trader. Or, they might say, I'm more of an investor. Like I understand that difference now.
Yeah.
And they've thanked us.
Gotcha. Well, great. I appreciate you giving some insight on that because there were several questions about that. And there are people here who have blown up accounts and they're trying to come back slowly and they're saying black box stocks has helped them. And I've heard from people that same thing. And that's just amazing advice. Well, here's the deal. Also, everyone, we've got Maria here for a limited time. And I do have one thing I'd like to get your thoughts on for sure. But quick,
Yeah.
when we go back real quickly to the trading the open, are you using, I'm just curious, like what broker, are you using a direct access broker or just, or not?
I use TD Ameritrade.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was just curious as far as, and someone asked too, are you marketing out of these positions in momentum or do you always limit?
It depends. It depends on the spread. So if it's a narrow spread, and we're talking sometimes up to 50 cents, I'm not going to fight the market makers on that.
Yeah.
If it's like, if it's an Amazon trade, I'm definitely limiting in and limiting out. But if the spread is narrow, I'm not. I'm just going to mark it in and out. I don't care.
Okay, gotcha. Well, this last thing I'd like to ask you about, when I first
Yeah.
got back when I first joined Black Box and started just kind of poking around and seeing what's up, I was really impressed with there's just a diversity among the moderators. And this idea that trading is this boys club and trading is male dominated. And I'm curious to get your thoughts if you're still okay in time. If not, just let me know. But
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd
I've got
love
a
to.
little bit more time. We can probably go another 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of time.
The fire is warm. The cabin just makes people just talk. It's
I know, right? I'm actually having fun. So yeah, I can stay a little longer.
well, I appreciate that.
Um,
Okay,
yeah.
women in trading. I want to talk about it. What are your thoughts on that?
So is it a male-dominated industry? Absolutely. Are there more females now in trading than there were even 5 years ago? Absolutely. Um, I think that I think I was very blessed or fortunate or whatever you want to call it, um, in my professional or corporate career where I didn't deal with a lot of stuff that other females may have dealt with. Like all of them, all of my male coworkers, whether they were, just same level as me or they were managers or higher level or whatever, were extremely supportive and very much
Hmm.
of the thought process to where they wanted to help you move forward. They wanted to help you be better.
Yeah.
So I'm actually very thankful for that because I think that there definitely are women that didn't have it like that. Um, as a female trader, do I still have to prove myself to a lot of men? Absolutely. There's always going to be, especially when you got some old school, older traders that still have
Yeah.
that mentality. They're like,
Hmm.
you're just a girl or you're not even supposed to be trading or whatever. And like, yeah, sometimes you have to prove yourself, but I feel like that's the same for any trader. I think that any trader goes through situations, whether you're male or female, where you have to prove yourself, right?
That's right. That's right. That's yeah. So sure. Now, some of the research I definitely went through with my university job. I've got access to a lot of research databases and such, and there's definitely research starting about 2001 or 2002 that's showing that women do generally make better traders than men. So this Business Insider piece I've got up here. If anybody's interested, I've got the at the bottom of the screen is where it comes from. But there's this Emma Sinclair was talking about 5 possible reasons that women are possibly better at trading than men. So that's how I get your kind of thoughts on it, because you've known a lot of traders, male and female,
Yeah.
in your career. And I'm curious if these seem to be, do you think these are data informed or does it seem stereotypical? Just kind of curious what you think.
No, I think it's very data informed, and I do think that women do tend to make better traders because we don't. There's a couple of reasons, and that first one is ego, right? And so ego or pride is a huge thing. Females most of the time don't deal with it. We do deal with it, but not to the extent that men do, right? Like where we're not having a pissing contest. Like we accept when we're wrong. It's okay. It happens. We understand that.
No.
And men do too, but it seems that it's easier for women to come to that conclusion first. So it's the fact that we don't really deal with that pride or that ego aspect as much. We don't feel like we have to prove, anything to anyone else, which sometimes that's what men want to do, and that's okay too. But not only that, we tend to have less emotion when we're trading,
Well,
right? It is what it is.
yeah, yeah. And by the way, if you're listening to this after the fact as an audio podcast, this first of the 5 points is that men hate to be wrong and take longer to admit they've made an error. And there are plenty of women who hate to be wrong, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying that in your experience, you're on board with this first point here. This is not something you would throw away into the trash can.
No, I wouldn't.
I bet you, I mean, you haven't told me this. I don't know. This is an assumption. You ready to have an assumption?
Absolutely.
Welcome to Assumptions About Women with River. I think that whenever you enter these trade positions, if it is invalidated, I bet you kill it in a second. I bet you do not let your
I
losers run.
do. I don't.
So you're
Well, let me rewind. Rarely,
okay.
especially in a scalping situation, rarely. Does it happen? Yes. We're all human. It's going to happen. I accept that. But it's rare.
So I wonder if men do let losers run longer because they simply hate to admit when they're wrong. So I don't know.
I agree.
So your trade goes wrong. You were wrong. You're just going to, most of the time, you kill it and you move on.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Women are better in a crisis, and this is just what you said, and less emotional because, contrary to popular belief, female traders are more disciplined and less likely to panic. What do you think about
1,000%.
that? Okay. There's a stereotype right there. There's the stereotype. Women are more emotional. There's research all over the place, not just in trading, that suggests men are way more emotional than women, and they have more trouble controlling that emotion. So contrary
Yep.
to popular belief, maybe because of the hysteria stuff in the 19th century and all that horrible history, people think women are more emotional. But in fact, you agree, women are less likely to panic when trades go wrong.
Correct. In trading, yes.
Yes, right. So women are better because they're less emotional. I believe it. And I know a lot of people just won't believe that, but I believe you. I believe the research. All right. So number 3, dear listeners, women can more easily say no, and sometimes the best trades are the ones you do not make.
Agreed.
So you think
We are more risk averse. So
okay.
if the trade, we're not going to force it.
So also stuff like resisting FOMO. Do you think that maybe men are worse at that as well? Just
Yes,
taking
I
trades.
think so. I think so.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know in my early days, in the first few months, I would definitely just feel the need to get into trades for just stupid reasons, and just FOMO is I don't have, not an issue at this point, but sometimes you just think, oh, look, everybody's doing great. I need to get in this trade. So nonetheless, women can more easily say no to a trade. All right, number 4, I don't know about this one, but women read the manual, stick to a strategy, and question things that they are uncertain of. This makes me think that men won't ask for directions and women will. Is that a stereotype?
It is a stereotype, but it's so true. I
so,
think it's true.
so you'd be a more. I mean, I listen. I hate driving around lost. Like if we are going somewhere on vacation, I will just pull over and ask someone quickly. I have no problem with this idea.
Okay, let me ask you this: would your dad?
No, he would just keep driving. He would just drive
See,
to.
so it might be more generational because, like, I
Uh,
know, like my male friends or whatever, most of them, like, they'll GPS it or they'll ask someone. But I know, like, I remember taking road trips as a child with my parents, and my dad refused
he had no
to
idea
ever
where.
ask anyone for instruction. No, he didn't. We
Totally
knew he was lost. He knew he was lost, but he wasn't going to ask anyone.
lost. Do women read the manual though? Is that a little much? I mean, do
No,
you?
I do. I do. So
Yeah.
like I like putting stuff together, like so furniture, if you order a new desk or whatever, like I'll put it together myself. Like I just enjoy doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And I will I follow the manual, I follow the instructions. If I get something new that I don't know how to use, okay, so I may not read it word for word, but I will skim it enough so that I actually understand what's happening, like what I need to do. Um,
You'll do some live PD on the manual. Yeah. But that second thing here, this is very cogent and important to trading. Stick to a strategy. How many people out there are just trying every strategy for a week and then they're moving to something else, moving to something else? How many strategies do you typically employ?
just one. Buy support seller resistance. It works.
Stick to a strategy. That's right. Stick
Yeah.
from thing to thing. From the I'm not dissing any of these. These are all probably fine, but they're going from, the strat to the orb to this back and forth, and they're just jumping from strategy to strategy. I found that interesting. I wonder if women traders,
So
typically.
like I will try new things. Like I'll try it. Like for example, about a year and a half ago I didn't trade with fib pivots. And I'm
Okay.
like, you know what? I'm gonna throw it on here just to see what happens. And I noticed, you know what? These fib pivots are actually working out pretty damn well. And I'm like, yeah, and they actually do line up with my larger areas of support and resistance. It falls in line with what I'm already doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I incorporated that. So my whole thing is that if it's not broke, why fix it? But that doesn't mean if there's that you can't find ways to improve what you're already doing.
Prove, right.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm, jumping from X to Y to Z to A to, L or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
not doing that. I stick to what I know and what's working. But if I find something or I hear something or I'm looking at something that seems like it could be good and it can benefit me, I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, then I just throw it out. If it works, I'll incorporate it.
Yeah, if the data works out, you're there. Yeah, people have asked too. Like I've heard you mention 34, 55, 89, 200 and
That's
view.
eight and the
Yeah,
8, the 34, the 55, 89, 200 and VWAP plus
and
fib
fit.
pivots.
So the
Yep.
pivot stayed.
The pivots are still on my charts. So,
Okay.
and here's the thing though, because I use TD Ameritrade
Yeah.
for like my desktop platform, they don't have a true fib pivot study. So one of our members was amazing enough to share his script that he created. So it's not an exact match. Like my numbers might be a little bit off, but it's close enough that it works for me.
I love how Thinkorswim has those shared studies and just shared whatever.
Right?
Those this people complain sometimes about their fills or whatever, but when it comes to charting, Thinkorswim is pretty rad in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you definitely use them for charting pretty much exclusively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've tried TradingView. I just find Thinkorswim to be easier. That may change. I may play with TradingView a little bit more because a lot of people really, really love it. And I think that since the last time I've tried TradingView, they've actually made a lot of changes.
Mhm.
So I may look at it at some point, but I mean, Thinkorswim works just fine for me. Like I like to keep my charts and what I do daily like as simple as possible because there's already so much stuff going through your mind. So many things to like check off the list, like super quick, like as fast as you possibly can. You're already processing so much data. I don't like to add too much,
Yeah. So
you
you
know.
don't have any lower studies then, do you? You didn't mention any lower studies right now.
So I have them on there. Like I have Mac. I have I use MACD. It's on there. I actually have RSI on there,
Okay. Okay.
but I don't really use them to trade. Like I might look at MACD and say, "Oh, yeah, looks good" or whatever, but um, my trade isn't going to be based just on that. It's basically there because it's pretty at this point. I like it. I've got it color coded.
Yeah.
Makes my charts a little bit brighter. So, and that's literally the only reason why they're still there.
I remember like months ago, I was like, wow, look, Kang is using the MACD. I should use the MACD. So I started using it,
Yeah,
and I realized I'm just not using it that much. I agree with you on
yeah,
trading. Like, I think if I used TradingView more, I'd probably like it better. But I'm kind of with you. I'm not really. I don't know. They haven't won me over yet. But so I should say too, all this discussion about gender here, the idea, of course, a lot of this is talking about things with broad strokes. Of course, that's always going to lead to problems. But I think this general discussion here has been very not just interesting but entertaining. Because
absolutely.
we got number 5. We got to talk about number 5 here, and we just got to see. Do you think that women, okay, as do you think that women are measured as opposed to jumping in head first, which men are apparently prone to doing? What I
I'm
doubt.
gonna say yes. So, but okay, so here's what I will say. Every one of these points all tie back to ego. It is all ego and pride. I've
Ego.
got to prove that I'm the bigger man,
I'm
right?
the
So if
uh,
Joe says I'm going I'm going deep into these contracts, Sam over here is gonna be like, whoa, I'm going in deeper.
going.
Yeah, because
Oh, you're going 100 contracts. I'm gonna go 10,000 contracts.
exactly. They want it's a one up, right? Like, oh no, I'm the bigger, badder man. So I think all of this kind of ties back into that whole ego pride type of thing.
We heard a long time ago that the ladies like that. Like the ladies want us to be the idiot with 10,000 contracts. Heard a long time ago. We got to wear a lot of cologne, and be the.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, you're right. This idea of here's this is yeah. I could go on, but I'm not. So you're right. Ego. So hate to be wrong. More emotional. It's hard to say no. It's hard to admit when you're wrong and to just take the loss. I'm not going to read the manual. I'm going to figure it out. I don't ask for questions. There is something about society that has programmed men over the last 2,000 years. There's no doubt that men are supposed to be the be all rock of everything. And men,
Yep.
like any human, are emotional creatures who are just trying to get by. And
Right.
I find it interesting. So
It
we,
is.
we have discovered that women are better traders than men. I fully believe that.
And,
But
and and again, I mean, it's not just this one from the Times. Like there have been multiple studies that have been done where it actually does show that women are better traders.
that's right. Yeah, I definitely found probably 7 or 8. There's a seminal article that goes back to 2001. I can't remember the author's name, but there's definitely a mound. Like this Emma Sinclair piece, she starts this one. If you read the whole thing, she says she heard this argument that women make better traders than men because of these reasons, and she didn't believe it at all. And then it's phrased, she said, until a mountain of research convinced her otherwise. So you're right. There is tons of academic research that basically, if we take men and women out of it, just warns us to slow down and don't. I guess you're right. You summed it up. Just don't be a victim to ego when you're
Yeah,
trading.
exactly. And it's not just men. It's all women. I think it's every person. I think we all
Yeah,
have a little bit of all of these points in us, especially that ego thing. Like we all deal with that, right? I think women just tend to overcome it a little bit easier. But I think one thing that has helped people in the past to understand is that the only person you're competing with is yourself.
That's right.
And I truly mean that. Like it's not like just because so and so did, X amount of dollars or they got X%, it shouldn't make anyone feel badly or feel like they're less of a trader or like why did they miss out? They shouldn't be beating themselves up. You are only responsible for yourself. You cannot compare yourself to other traders. You can only compare yourself to yourself.
Mhm. There's a lot of FinTwit stuff. There's a lot of things that distract us by wanting us to see all of these gains and wanting us to see all these people who it feels sometimes to a new trader like everybody's making money but you. And is FinTwit a distraction for newer traders? Would you advise people stay away from that or stock twits?
So I wouldn't say stay away because there are a lot of quality traders out there that put out some amazing content on social media, whether that's StockTwits, Twitter, just FinTwit in general. Um, you just have to be super careful. Like if all they're posting is I made X%, I made X%, I made X%, it's probably not someone that you really want to follow, right? But if they're posting content like, hey, here's my chart on Amazon, or look at what sentiment's doing, or something like that, where they're actually adding to your knowledge, they're helping you. I think that's fine. You just have to be super careful. You have to be picky about who you choose to follow.
Right. Yeah, that's great advice. Well, listen, I know that you're on a time thing. I would just like to say, I could just go. We need to do another episode sometime. This is amazing.
Absolutely.
Really,
Yeah, anytime.
I know people have been asking, the next episode coming up. It's someone who thinks very highly of you as a trader.
Oh,
So the end of next month, everyone. Next up is Hell's Bell.
Hells. I'm definitely gonna be listening to that one.
That's
Hells
right.
is great, guys. He's amazing. He's not only like he's like he's got this really
Oh
he's
wait, we
got
got.
the most I'm sorry, he's like the driest sense of humor, but it's sarcastic at the same time.
Oh
And
yeah,
he's very knowledgeable. He's to see his growth from when he started to where he is now
yeah.
is absolutely amazing. Like I'm super proud of House Bells, and I think every single person that can, if you can make that episode, please do. Like seriously, make that one.
Yeah, there's some comments coming in. Like, I'm going to, between now and then, probably starting Monday, I'm going to put out, basically, I'm going to solicit, questions for Hells.
Yeah.
People have contacted me a lot, requesting him be on, and they're interested in the guy. He's a very intriguing person, and he's an amazing trader, and it makes perfect sense. So I'm going to be putting out questions for Hells, or I hope you guys will, send me questions and what do you want me to ask him when he comes on the show, because he's definitely the next one up. There's definitely people asking about Charlie in the chat, and Charlie is definitely, he has confirmed he's definitely going to come on the show, and he's going to be totally free to talk about everything. So I can't wait, and we just don't have that date nailed down, but it's definitely coming up for sure.
I'm
So
excited for that one too.
oh yeah, it's this
I'm
is
excited for all of them,
well,
actually.
me too. I feel like I owe you guys tuition. It's just it's an honor to talk to you guys, and this is a
Yeah.
Saturday, Mario. Seriously, this is an honor to spend this time with you. Thank you for giving up your time on a Saturday when you work so hard through the week. So I really appreciate chatting with you. And if you ever want to come back on the show again, you just let me know, and we're gonna make it happen.
Absolutely. You let me know when you want me back and I'll be back. And I truly appreciate you having me on. I'm so happy that everyone showed up. And I will see y'all on Monday,
And
bright and early.
there's a flurry
Yeah.
of comments coming in saying that you are definitely oh, thank you very much, everyone. But they're saying you are definitely their favorite mod, and
Oh,
they love you on voice. And anyway, have a great remainder of your day, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you Monday.
thank you so much again. Have a good one, y'all. Take care.
Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you for showing up for that. I appreciate all the comments, and I know there were questions we didn't get to. But I really appreciate you guys spending time. She blows me away. She is such an amazing trader, and I'm really glad you guys showed up. I would like to say, since there's definitely a lot of you guys still here, thanks for supporting the show and listening to the podcast. There's a lot of mods coming up. I mean, this is booked probably for the next 8 months or so with all kinds of guests. So it's the greatest job in the world, and I appreciate you guys coming on a Saturday. This is amazing. You guys came on a Saturday to tune in. I really appreciate it. So definitely, I'm taking off, but it was recorded. It will be posted in the Black Box Stocks education calendar. You can always access this through the link that is there. But also, you can, it's in podcast format on all the major podcast players. It will be posted there, as well as my YouTube channel, which, if you're curious, is right there. It's YouTube at The Great River. And thank you, Julian. I appreciate that. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed the show. And anyway, next month, the end of next month, we got Hell's Bells. And you guys send me questions to Twitter at GreatRVR. Let me know, DM me, let me know what's up. What would you like me to ask Hell's Bells about? So I am out of here. Thank you so much for showing up. Again, a huge thanks to my guest, Maria Chaudhry, and also Black Box Stocks, of course. If you're listening and you're not a member, check us out. There's a lot here, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for showing up. I will see you in the community. Be nice to each other. Thanks for coming.